Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the King, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are making a Survivor tier list based on their perks. Obviously, we can't make a Survivor tier list just on Survivors because they're just reskins and that'll be totally subjective. But in this video, we're going to be talking about every single Survivor, talking about the perks that they have, their 3 teachables, and ranking them up from who's the best to who's the worst. Before we jump on into this video, we have a sponsor. And today's sponsor is Raid Shadow Legends. If you guys are looking for an amazing new game to play with tons of things to do, millions of players and tough bosses, you're in the right place. Raid Shadow Legends has it all. It also has a ton of depth. It has 13 playable factions, and today we're going to be talking about the High Elves. Alright, so the High Elves are your classic good guys, mostly. They live in their wild kingdoms in Arvia. They're easy on the eyes, their queen is the most powerful sorceress, and they've been fighting evil since before that was even cool. The problem is, it's not clear whose side they're really on. To find out more, you'll have to meet them in the story campaign. For now, here's some of my favorite High Elven champions. But you guys know I've been playing Raid for a very long time now, and I've been enjoying the game so much. Right now, I'm having so much fun in the PvP arena battles where I can battle it out against real players and show how dominant my champions are. It's been super fun and addictive, and honestly, I can't stop. And now's a great time to get into Raid, as last month it has one of the biggest updates to date. The main event here is the Doom Tower. It's a giant tower with over 120 floors and a bunch of secret room challenges and 12 seriously badass bosses to take on. I've been waiting for this one for a long time, and I just can't wait to dive in it. This is honestly the best time to start playing, and the best part is the Raid team are going to be giving away a bunch of free goodies plus a super special champion for everyone to get started in the tower. Bulwark. He's amazing in Clan Boss, and he's also going to be a huge help in that tower against those bosses. So if you guys want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you'll need to do is to hit the link in the description and get your free Void Champion, an XP booster, 50 gems, some energy refills, and even an ancient shard as soon as you get in the game. And you'll find all of these rewards in your inbox for the next 30 days. It's literally that easy. Click on the link in the description, and I'll see you in game. Alrighty guys, now that we heard that word from our sponsor, it is time to do the tier list. Now, obviously, gotta make a few disclaimers. I am going to talk about your favorite Survivor. This is a completely subjective list, however, please just take everything with a grain of salt. I'm going to be talking about everyone based on their perks and ranking them how I believe they should be ranked, and yeah, don't take it to heart is what I mean, but we're just gonna have some fun with this and pretty much rank up who has the best perks, the 3 teachable perks at least in the game, and carry on forward. So with that being said, we can go ahead and start on the list. So the first person on the list is our boy Dwight. Dwight comes with 3 teachable perks: Bond, Prove Thyself, and Leader. Let's start off with Bond. Bond is a pretty good perk if you are, looking around for where your teammates are, trying to keep information on where the killer is so you can know who's running away. It's also really good in tournament style plays, but all in all, it's not really an outstanding perk. It's very average. Prove Thyself is next on the list, and this is going to affect to all survivors within a range, and pretty much you gain a stackable to repair speed bonus up to a maximum of 45%. Could be pretty good if you're really trying to pump those gens out. And finally, we have Leader, which increases all other actions. All in all, Dwight is pretty standard. He has some pretty alright perks, nothing that's going to be exceptionally crazy and super good, but just a nice balance of perks. And for that reason, we're going to rank our boy Dwight in the B tier. I think he is a good character, and he definitely does have some decent perks. Nothing that is over the top crazy and strong, but nothing that's necessarily weak. Everything can have good synergy with other perks in the game. And for that reason, our boy Dwight is in the B tier. Moving on forward on the list, the next person on the list that we're going to be talking about here is Meg. Now, Meg, I am a little bit biased, is my survivor main, as you guys know. But besides that, Meg does come with some really good perks. First, we have Quick and Quiet, which is probably the weakest of the 3 that we have on the list. And Quick and Quiet just makes it so if you're going through any lockers or vaults, it won't make any audio. Pretty good if you're trying to be stealthy and sneaky, could work in that playstyle. Next on the list is Sprint Burst, which I still firmly believe is one of the best, if not the best, exhaustion perk in the game to date. So I really, really like Sprint Burst. And I think it's literally one of the best perks in the game, right next to one of the best exhaustion perks. And finally, we have Adrenaline. Now, Adrenaline is a very amazing perk. It gives you a nice sprint burst once all the generators are done, and also heals you. This can come in clutch so much, and it just works beautifully. Now, if we were to go rank Meg on the list, I am going to have to put Miss Meg in the S tier. I believe that she has 2 of the best perks in the game that you would see very commonly in the red ranks. Quick and Quiet, not so much, but when stacked up against all of the other perks, it really does stand out on top of everybody else of just how amazing the perks are itself. If anyone's starting off the game, Meg Thomas is definitely someone you should be going for and leveling up. So Meg is going to be in the S tier for me. Moving on the list, we have Claudette, and Claudette obviously has one of the on-defense perks. You know, this used to be really strong back in the days. Now with all of the changes that they had to medkits and healing, it's not as good as it is, and people are on defensive. Hey, we should try to make people stop using this perk. And that perk itself is Self-Care. Self-Care gives you the option to heal yourself with no items whatsoever. You don't need a medkit. You can just fully heal yourself. And if you do use a medkit, you get 50% the normal healing speed. It also increases the effectiveness of a medkit by 10, 15, and 20%. Pretty good perk overall, and it works really good with her other perk, Botany Knowledge, which basically increases the healing of item and regular up to 33%. This is a pretty good perk too if you're trying to be altruistic, healing teammates. You know, you're being super duper altruistic, saving people off the hooks, and you want to heal them up quickly. This is definitely a good perk. And then, of course, we have Empathy, which is pretty much very similar to Bond, but essentially gives you a 128 meter range of if anybody's dying, injured, you basically see their auras, which gives you a lot of information on exactly where the killer is. And again, if you want to be altruistic or just looking for information, this perk helps pretty well. Now, she doesn't have anything that is super amazing and stands out, such as like Sprint Burst or Adrenaline, but she still has some pretty damn good perks. And for that reason, we're going to be putting Claudette in the A tier. I believe that she has some really good perks on her list that can take her a very far way, and especially if you're starting off with something like Self-Care and Botany, will definitely help a lot in your trials. Next on the list is Jake Park. Now, Jake Park is part of the OG squad, the last one of the OG squad, of course, has some pretty decent perks as well. The first one on the list is Iron Will, which is hands down, in my opinion, the best perk in the game. Iron Will literally make all of your injury noises down to 100%, meaning if you're injured, the killer will not help hear you whatsoever. This helps so much if you're trying to be stealthy, or not even if you're trying to be stealthy, if you're just trying to play the game and the killer's looking around, they will lose you so often. He also has Calm Spirit, which reduces alerting crows, which is something that a lot of good killers use, as well as Dr. Shocks or any screams whatsoever, making you very quiet. Of course, you can combine this with Iron Will and be a super stealthy build. Saboteur as well, which isn't as strong as it used to be. At one point in time, it was amazing. They obviously reworked it, and now it's just alright. You can basically see hooks and break hooks a little bit faster, but going back to ranking him on the list, I'm gonna have to go and put Mr. Jake in the A tier. I believe that Iron Will is just such a good perk that it carries him all the way to the A tier because it's just such an amazing perk, and yeah, that's where he is on my list. Moving on, the next person we have on the list is Nea. Now, Nea has some interesting perks as well. The first one on the list is Balance Landing, which is an exhaustion perk, and pretty much all exhaustion perks in the game are better than most of the other perks because they give you such a good benefit. And this one has a prerequisite of falling. It also muffles your grumps of falling by 100%, which can be very beneficial. And of course, it gives you the 150 movement speed. Urban Evasion, which allows you to be super stealthy, move at walking speed while crouching up to 100%. And Streetwise, which pretty much makes your items last a little bit longer in case you want to do that. Out of these perks, I think Balance Landing and Urban Evasion are definitely two really good perks, and for that reason, we're going to make this one pretty easy as well. Nea is going into the A tier. I don't think she has any perks that will push her to the S tier because, in my opinion, I don't think Balance Landing is really up to par with Sprint Burst. You can make a good argument, but then when you take a look comparing to Meg, for example, Adrenaline and Urban Evasion just, for me, don't correlate. I think Adrenaline is such a better perk. So for that reason, we're putting her in the A tier, but definitely some good perks in her kit. The next person on the list is Laurie, the iconic Laurie, and we have some interesting perks for Miss Laurie as well. The first one on the list is Soul Survivor. Soul Survivor is pretty simple. Your aura cannot be read by the killer within a maximum range of 24 meters for each killed or sacrificed survivor. Something that's overlooked a lot. It's really not one of those good perks. The next one on the list is Object of Obsession, which you see more experienced players using, which literally lets you see where the killer is at all times once you're looking at them. And of course, they can see you as well, but it gives you so much information. It's such a good perk if you know how to use it, just giving you information and just to taunt your killers, really. And finally, we have the Almighty Decisive Strike, which is one of the best survivor perks in the game, pretty much giving you a second chance in case you're being tunneled or if you want to use it offensively. And for that reason, we are going to have to put Miss Laurie all the way next to Meg in the S tier. I think D-Strike is just one of those perks that's so good that it carries everything else up so much. And of course, Object of Obsession is crazy good if you know how to use it. Just gives you so much information at all times and taunts the killer. For that reason, Laurie is in the S tier. Moving on the list, we have Ace. Now, Ace came out a very, very long time ago, along with his perks Open-Handed, Up the Ante, and Ace in the Hole, all dealing with your luck, essentially. The first one with Open-Handed increases the aura reading potential by 8 meters, which I guess doesn't have to do with luck. I take my statement back, which honestly doesn't do anything, really. It's really not used at all. The next is Up the Ante, which again doesn't do much. It gives you 3% more luck and bonus luck to up to 9%. Nobody cares about luck in DBD, let's be quite frank. And of course, the best of the other ones, Ace in the Hole, which has been updated recently. When basically you retrieve an item from a chest, there's a 100% chance to get add-ons, a very rare or lower. This is pretty much a farming one. If we were to rank Ace on the list, he only has one decent perk, and that's Ace in the Hole. I believe you also can keep your items as well. If you leave, yeah. So if you leave, you get to keep your items. So it's fairly decent compared to what it used to be, and for that reason, we're going to put him in the C tier. The other two perks just don't stack up because they're not used whatsoever, and there's only one decent perk on him, which again still is kind of meh. So we're going to be putting Ace on in the C tier. It sucks because I do like Ace. The next person on the list is Bill. Good old Billy Bill. Now, Bill has some interesting perks on the list. The first one we have is Left Behind, which is probably the one that no one really used on his kit, which is basically when you're the last survivor, you see the aura of the hatch. This is a perk that you pretty much never see in the game whatsoever, so we can just move past it. The next one is one that you do see a lot and probably one of the meta perks, which is Borrowed Time. Obviously giving everybody some extra time in case you pull them off. If they get hit, they are in the deep wound stats effects, and then they have 20 seconds to mend themselves. Borrowed time basically means someone's camping, someone's around, you can easily get the save and give that survivor a nice chance. And of course, we have Unbreakable, which once per trial, once you're in the dying state, you can pick yourself back on the ground. Two really good perks in Borrowed Time and Unbreakable. For that reason, we're going to also be putting Bill in the A tier. I think he has two really good perks. Obviously, the first one, Left Behind, isn't that good whatsoever, but Borrowed Time and Unbreakable definitely push him up. And this is pretty much where we start going a little bit downhill with how good these survivor perks are. We're going on over to Feng now. Now, Feng has Technician. The hearing of the noises caused by your repair are reduced by 8 meters, which really doesn't mean anything. Killers still check the gen, so doesn't really do anything. Of course, it also has the secondary thing: on a failed skill check, the following effects happen and the generator explosion is prevented, which is great for new players, but once you learn how to do skill checks, the perk is useless. Life basically carries her entire skill set as it's an exhaustion perk, and the prerequisite for this one is Vaulting a Window. Can be used, or a pallet, can be used pretty tactically if you know what you're doing. And then, of course, you have Alert, which gives you information. Pretty decent. It's not terrible. She doesn't have the worst set in the game, and for that reason, we're going to be putting Feng on in the B tier. She has some interesting perks, and definitely the exhaustion perk helps her out on the rankings, but all in all, she's just pretty average when it comes down to it. Next person on the list is David King. Now, David King has some interesting perks as well. The first one on the list is We're Going to Live Forever, which essentially is the survivor equivalent to barbecue and chili, giving you up to 25% stackable bonus blood points to all categories at 100%. Pretty good if you're just trying to get some bonus blood points. Dead Heart, of course, being the exhaustion perk, can help you very well if you're trying to get the first hit for free, or if you're trying to extend a loop or a chase. Once you become a little bit more skilled at the game and dedicated servers are on your side, Dead Heart can definitely be played in your favor. And the final one on the list, which is a perk that should be fixed and could be so much better, is No Mither, or No Mither, however you prefer to pronounce it. And this one is pretty much a dud. It's just a meme perk, but it's a fun meme perk, to say the least. Now, with We're Gonna Live Forever and Dead Hard, he is going to be in the A tier. We have a lot of people in the A tier. Dead Hard, definitely, once you become a little bit more experienced and you don't get cucked by latency, is a pretty decent perk. Not to mention We're Gonna Live Forever, or We're Gonna Farm Forever, is a very nice perk to getting some blood points. It doesn't really boost your gameplay up or anything. It's just really nice to reduce that grind, which is very, very taxing nowadays. Next person on the list is Quentin Smith, the Sleepy Boy, with some very lackluster perks in Wake Up, Pharmacy, and Vigil. Wake Up just makes you open the exit gates open faster, which, let's be honest, nobody runs. Pharmacy just guarantees you a medkit and a emergency medkit on the first try, which again, if you just want to heal, you can run self-care. And Vigil, which is probably the best of them all, which was nerfed a while back to where it was actually a top tier perk. It only reduces your exhaustion 20% faster if you are not running, essentially. Which is nice if you're trying to, you know, run a lot and use sprint burst or some other thing, but on its own, it really doesn't serve no purpose. It used to be good in the sense that it used to recover your exhaustion while you were running or moving around, which is crazy. And of course, it does do blindness, hindered, mangled, hemorrhage, but no one really talks about those status effects when it comes down to Vigil. And for that reason, we're going to put Mr. Sleepy Boy in the D tier. He's the first guy in the D tier. None of his perks really are good, and without an exhaustion perk, Vigil is quite useless. So for that reason, he is in the D tier. Next on the list is David Tapp. And I did say we were starting to get downhill. The first one on the list is Tenacity, which basically makes you move 50% faster while you're slugged on the floor, which is good if you do get slugged on the floor, but more often than not, you don't. And the chances that you do, you can supplement for Unbreakable or something better, even No Mither. The next one is Detective's Hunch, which is quite good. It does reveal auras of generators, chest, totems. If you're looking for a specific totem that's on fire, this can definitely help you out. The next one on the list is Stakeout. For 15 seconds, you're standing in the killer's terror radius, and you're not in chase. You get a token up to 4 tokens, and this basically guarantees you a great skill check. If you know how to do generators, it's pretty pointless, so the only good perk on his list is Detective's Hunch, and Tenacity can technically be used in certain situations. For that reason, we're going to put him in the C tier. Nothing stands out that's like, whoa, this is amazing, but it is what it is. The next one on the list is Kate Denson, coming on in with Dance With Me, Boil Over, and Windows of Opportunity. We'll start from the bottom. Boil Over is absolutely useless. It can be way better if it decreased the amount of time it was to struggle, but it doesn't. It just makes it so that the killer essentially is more wobbly. That is literally it. The next one is Windows of Opportunity, which is good if you're a newer player in the game. It shows you where pallets, breakable walls, and vaults are. This has a cooldown of 20 meters, but, a cooldown of 20 seconds and a range of 20 meters. But that's about it. And finally, we have Dance With Me, which when you're performing a fast vault or in a locker, you leave no scratch marks. But realistically, if you're fast vaulting, chances are you're in the chase and the killer is going to be seeing you. For that reason, we are going to be dropping Miss Kate Denson in the C tier. The perks can help if you are brand new to the game, but realistically, once you become just a little bit experienced, that's pretty much it that you have for her. So let's carry on to Adam Francis. Adam Francis has Diversion or Pebble, Deliverance, and Autodidact. We'll start with Pebble. Pebble is going to be getting a buff pretty soon, so this is going to be a little bit different, but pretty much the same. You pretty much throw a Pebble, and it causes a diversion, and the killer sees scratch marks, and here's a Pebble, goes out and checks it. A very unique perk, to say the least. We have Deliverance, which is actually a pretty decent perk. If you manage to save someone safely, you can rescue yourself from the hook. Obviously, you would need to save them before you get hooked, so that's the only thing, and it needs to be a safe hook. And Autodidact, which is pretty much useless unless you're going for a healing build, and then in that case, again, just use Botany or something like that. Pretty much you start the trail with a negative 25% progression penalty for skill checks, and as it goes up, you can get tokens, which will give you 15%. So for those reasons, we're going to be putting on in Adam in the D tier. There really is nothing that's good with his perks. You know, Pebble is a fun perk for sure, but it doesn't really do much, and it doesn't help your gameplay whatsoever. Neither does anything else in his kit. And for that reason, we're going to put him on in the C tier. The only really useful perk here is Deliverance, and even then, you know, it's only good if you're in a Swift and you're trying to save some time, essentially. Pebble is all fun, but that's pretty much it. And then we don't really talk about Autodidact all too much because it's really not that good. The next person on the list is Jeff Johansen, coming on in with Distortion, thinking of killer perks, Aftercare, and Breakdown. Breakdown basically pulled off the hook, you break the hook. Aftercare, you see the survivor that rescues you from the hook, and Distortion, basically, the killer will not see you, and you have 3 tokens. So essentially, if they have barbecue and chili, they won't see you for 3 uses. Everything here is pretty lackluster. You know, Aftercare, you can basically run Bond or Empathy. It's just a rehashed version of that. Distortion is alright, you know, in case the killer doesn't want to see your aura, which can buy you some time if they're using barbecue and chili. And Breakdown, you can just run Saboteur, essentially. All 3 of these perks are just rehashed versions of other perks, besides, well, maybe besides Distortion, but even then, it's not really good. It's good to baiting out what the killer perk is, but it doesn't help whatsoever. For that reason, we're putting on in Jeff in the D tier. I'm sorry, Jeff. I do love and appreciate you, my friend, but his perks are just not that good. Next on the list is Jane. Good old Jane. So we have Solidarity, which basically means while injured, healing a survivor without using your medkit heals you as well for 50%. Can be used if you're trying to just get double heals on really quickly. Poise, which means after generator, it will not leave any scratch marks whatsoever. And Head On, obviously head-oning and stunning the killer. The only decent perk here is Head On, and it can be used to do some really cool things, you know, stunning the killer, memeing with the killer, getting some saves. Poise and Solidarity aren't used that often, but if used correctly, can work well. 10 seconds when the generator is popped. Let's say you're in chase and you manage to get some distance from the killer and you have no scratch marks. Chances are you can get away with this. Solidarity really doesn't mean anything. It doesn't take that long to heal when you're healing each other, so doesn't prove much of anything. For that reason, we're going to be putting her on in the C tier. She doesn't have anything that's outstanding, but she still has something that can help in situations. Next on the list is Ash Williams, and he comes with Flip Flop, Buckle Up, and Metal Man. We'll start from the bottom. Metal Man used to be really good, and now it isn't good at all. Basically, after you earn 3 protection hits, you have 1 extra hit. Chances of you getting 3 protection hits though and getting Metal Man to work are very slim to none. Buckle Up is just completely useless. You just see the auras of people on the floor to see how much they're healed. And Flip Flop, essentially 50% of your recovery progress will be transferred to your Wiggle. Again, you can just run any other perk to get you up from the floor rather than trying to recover and then attempting to wiggle out. It again can work if you're running very specific builds. On its own, completely useless, all of these perks. Metal Man used to be good, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. For that reason, Ash is in the D tier. I realize I'm being very, very brutal with some of these perks, but it's honestly how I feel about them. Next on the list is Nancy Wheeler. Nancy Wheeler comes with Inner Strength, which is a very decent perk, allowing you to heal yourself very quickly if you cleanse a totem. Obviously, 5 totems on the map, you gotta find them and worry about other survivors cleansing this, but if you manage to get some totems down, you can heal yourself pretty quickly. Fixated, which basically means you can see your own scratch marks when you walk, and you also walk 20% faster when uninjured, soon to be changed when injured as well. Pretty decent if you're starting out, and better together, which is very pointless. You work on a generator, and people see the generator you're working on. If you're in a Swift, it just doesn't matter really. Just something that should be fixed with solo queue and etc. We'll talk about it another time though. But Inner Strength and Fixated are definitely two decent perks on the list. Inner Strength giving you that healing bonus, and Fixated allowing you to see your scratch marks and move faster while walking, so you don't have to waste your sprint burst or any exhaustions you're running. For that reason, we'll put Nancy in the B tier. She has some decent perks in her arsenal. Next on the list is Steve. Steve coming on in from Stranger Things as well, with Second Wind, Camaraderie, and Babysitter. All three perks, which frankly are useless. We'll start with Babysitter. When you unhook the rescued survivor, you'll leave neither scratch marks or blood for 8 seconds. Doesn't really mean anything. Most of the times, killer don't even go back to the hook, and if they do, not seeing scratch marks won't help. They'll just see you. Camaraderie is next, and while you're on the hook in the struggle phase, Camaraderie activates. If another survivor is within 60 meters of the hook while Camaraderie is activated, the struggle pause timer is paused for 34 seconds. Can be good if the if you are like really close to dying or the killer is camping, but odds are you're just running borrowed time and you'll just go in for that save. Second one is the last one, which is a very interesting perk, but still nowhere near good. When you have healed other survivors to the equivalent of 1 health state, Second Wind activates. While Second Wind is activated, the next time you unhook or unhook yourself, you're affected with broken status effect. After a total of 30 seconds, Second Wind will automatically heal you. It's alright, but again, if you just want to heal, run a medkit, run self-care. There's better perks that do the job more efficiently without all those prerequisites. For that reason, my boy Steve is in the D tier. I'm sorry, Steve. I love you in Stranger Things, but not in DBD. Next on the list is Yui. I do love some Yui. And we have Breakout, Any Means Necessary, and Lucky Break. We'll start with Lucky Break, which is very simple. While Lucky Break is active, you'll not leave pools of blood for 180 seconds. That's it. That's literally all there is to Lucky Break. Any Means Necessary, which allows you to reset drop pallets, which is a very cool and interesting perk, but doesn't help that much as the killer just breaks the pallets anyways, and the only time this comes into play is if something like a Killer Shack pallet is dropped and you manage to put it back up, but again, the killer breaks it. And Breakout, which is probably one of the better perks on her list that allows people to wiggle out faster. Finally, a wiggle out faster perk after a very, very long time. But even then, it's very difficult unless you're a Swift to get a perk like this to work, with all of the hook placements being so close. If you're not taking body blocks or breaking hooks, it really doesn't serve any purpose. Now, it is pretty decent compared to some of the other perks that other people have, so we'll put her in the C tier, but definitely nowhere near the top. Next on the list is Zarina, one of the newer survivors coming on into the game with the perks for the people Red Herring and Off the Record. Off the Record is the first one on the list. Once you unhook or escape from the hook, Off the Record is activated for 80 seconds, and pretty much your aura will not be shown to the killer, and paints and grunts will be reduced by 100%. Just run Iron Will to have it all the time without a prerequisite. The next one is Red Herring, which is one of the interesting ones. After repairing a generator for at least 3 seconds, it will be highlighted with a yellow aura. The generator stays highlighted until it's fully repairing, or you repair a new generator or enter a locker. Entering any locker will trigger a loud noise notification for the killer at the highlighted generator's location. So it can come into play if you're trying to be tactical, but realistically, you'll never get much use out of this. And finally, we have the only decent perk on the list, which is For the People, which allows you to heal someone that's on the floor or someone that's injured to healthy at the sake of giving away one of your health states, which is the best one of the 3. This one can definitely come in clutch, even in solo queue. It's one of the only things that can instantly heal you, as insta-heals are no longer in the game. And for that reason, we're going to put her in the C tier as well. Not a super good perk, not a super bad perk though. It definitely can come into play if needed, but for the most part, it doesn't really come into fruition. Next on the list is Cheryl Mason, and she has 3 perks: Blood Pack, Repressed Alliance, and Soul Guard. The first one on the list is Soul Guard, which is a really good perk. If there is a Hex Totem on the field, you can basically recover from the dying state. Upon recovering from the dying state as well, even if that Hex is not there, you will have an Endurance status effect with Deep Wounds, and you can take a free hit. This is actually a really decent perk. If there's a Hex Totem, which more often there's not, you can get yourself up, and on top of that, with Soul Guard, you'll be able to take that free hit. Pretty decent perk. Blood Pact is next, which is quite the opposite. After healing the Obsession or being healed by the Obsession, you both gain some haste, which increases by 7% until you're no longer 16 meters of each other. It can work if you stay very close to each other, but again, if you're in solo queue or you're just doing different things, it doesn't really mean anything. And Repressed Alliance can do some counterplay to the killer. If the killer has Pot Goes the Weasel, you can basically lock the generator so they can't kick it for 60 seconds. But more often than not, you want those generators to be cranking out, and sometimes it's more efficient to just let the killer kick the gen and then continue to working on it, but it definitely can come into play in some situations. For that reason, we're putting Cheryl Mason in the B tier. She has some decent perks on her arsenal. Soul Guard definitely carrying a lot. Felix was our penultimate character to be added to the game with the perks Visionary, Desperate Measures, and Build to Last. Visionary, which, let's be honest, sucks. You just see the auras of generators in 32 meters. It's not a good perk whatsoever. It's more for the new players, but realistically, it's absolutely bad. Desperate Measures, which is next on the list, which increases your healing from unhooking speed for 14% for each injured survivor, can work if everyone is staying injured and can definitely speed some things up. Next one is Built to Last, which is once per trial, your depleted item will refill up to 50%. Again, just a rehash version of Streetwise. For that reason, we're going to put him in the C tier. A lot of people in the C tier. And obviously, the final survivor, which is not on this list, and I didn't notice, so I apologize for that, is Elodie. And Elodie's perks are as follows: Appraisal, Deception, and Power Struggle. Appraisal, when a chest has already been opened, consume 1 token to rummage for the item, and you basically get another item. Pretty decent if you're trying to farm. It definitely can work and be beneficial. The next is Deception, which is one of my favorite perks to run as of recently, which basically you can interact with a locker, and it looks like you go into the locker, but you don't actually do. And the killers can definitely be tricked by this. It definitely has some good play into it, and it's very unique. And then we have Power Struggle, which basically, while you're being carried by the killer, reaching a certain percent, it is. And the next perk is Power Struggle, which essentially you can drop a pallet if you're being carried by the killer. You can definitely catch them off guard and give yourself a second chance. Elodie would be ranked in the B tier. She's not actually here on the list. I wish I can add her in, but she would be in the B tier. She has some decent perks in her kit. Ladies and gentlemen, though, that is pretty much going to wrap it up for the survivor tier list of where I think these survivors belong based on their teachable perks. I'm sure you guys probably disagree or maybe even agree with me. I was a bit blunt when it came down to it, but that's how I feel about these perks. Honestly, everyone in the C and the D tier, we can make revisited versions and revised versions of their perks to make them way better, as these perks are never used or aren't really good. Some of them might have some decent perks in their kit, but the other two just tank them. And same can be said for some of these survivors on the top list, where some of their perks are really, really bad, but the other two bring them up and, you know, make them float. So that's how I feel about it. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Please, please, please let me know. Very interested in hearing your opinion as well. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know down below. Anyways, that is going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy this tier list video on survivors. As always, I'm the King. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fall.